Hello, so today I'm going to be doing another one of my collage influences, and this is one that I've been planning on doing for a while, and it's one of the two people that I attribute with like the birth of what we call collage. Back then they called photomontage, and those two people were um, the one I'm going to do today, Hannah Hoch, and another one I'll do later, which I've been building up to, is John Hartfield. And I'll be building up to this one as well. I actually originally always wanted. I bought this book years ago because I wrote an article. I did an article in for my old zine on her, and so I used this as a basis of what the images I used and the information about her. Because this was pre-internet, or pre-internet being as popular as it is now. And then I couldn't find this for ages, and I knew I was going to be doing this, so I ended up buying this book, which I think this book goes a bit more into the whole, more of the entirety of her career, and this one says it's about her Weimar photomontages. Now, she came about. She was one of these people. The reason why I say it's both her and Hartfield is because they both seem to have, the way they tell it, they seem to have come about it their own on their own at around a similar time, and they both brought to the Berlin Dada group, and they worked with other people with them. So at the time, John Hartfield worked with George Gross, and Hannah Hoch worked with her partner Raoul Haussmann. He did some of his own, but and they did stuff them together, but it was never as powerful. Raoul's ones were never as powerful as Hannah's, and she was a bit more the forefront of it. So I think this is why I credit her more than him. Is I don't know if that's necessarily doing him a bit of a disservice, but it was one of these things where also in the Dada group, she was being one of the rare girls involved in this. It was mostly a boys' club, one of the rare women. She did get her abilities didn't get as promoted at the time as they were, and despite the fact she was the only one of the group that actually had a job. So at the time she worked for a magazine, so she ended up funding the endeavour. And looking after the boys. So time is told differently. And one interesting thing about her is some people consider punk to be the spiritual successor to Dada, and this is probably I don't think it's also in part to do with the use of collage and photo montage in it. And she actually died in 1978, so she was alive when punk had just, so it would have been interesting to find out what she thought about it, but I haven't been able to find out any information on that. So yeah, she was born in 1889, so she's very old when she died. Now she was one of the she was actually the only member of the Berlin Dada group that didn't flee Germany when the Nazis came to power. And to not be unfair to John Hartfield, because he literally had to flee. He was on the top of a because of the work, his post Dada work. He'd done a lot of anti-Nazi artwork. He was basically really high up on their list. And when I do his video, I will talk about how he escaped and what he did. But Hannah actually, she was also the only one that when the Nazis put on a display, an exhibition called Entartet Kunst, called Degenerate Art, to try and mock this kind of artwork and show what they considered was bad artwork. She was the only one that actually attended, which I thought was a little amusing. But a lot less amusing is she had to the piece of her artwork that weren't in the public, that was her personal. She had to actually hide them. I think she even maybe buried them. And she was living with a partner at the time. She was bisexual, and she pretended. I think she pretended to they were just friends. But later, I think it was after the war, she married a businessman. There was I can't remember if there was stories. There was an occasion where she got assaulted by Russian troops, Soviet troops, when they came and when they got there. But so we'll go into her work. So this first book I've got is called Cut with the Kitchen Knife, which is the name of her most famous piece. This isn't the actual piece that we'll be getting into later. So I'll quickly go through this, flip through these because they are pretty big. So This is before all that. Haven't read this in a while. Now here are some of the Dada photo montages. So you have something called Dada Panorama, and an entitled one. So it's, I'm not the only one that finds difficulty finding titles for things. There's one, shame they've produced it so small, but there's one here called Dada Dance, and you see an African guy there, and this is probably the beginning of later on in her career. She started to experiment a lot more with using African images with her artwork. Here's a piece called Dada Dandy. This was used for the cover of the second edition of Dawn Aids' photo montage book. And as you see there, it has these people put together have been made into the silhouette of a person. So let's see if we can get to the. Here we go. Here's the piece in question. The most famous piece, cut with a kitchen knife, or some people call it cut with a cake knife. And so you've got all lots of these familiar elements here. I may have gone into this in my Dada video, but you've got like Kaiser Wilhelm with a some kind of weird fake moustache, and this one came out in 1990 or 1920. So it was after he'd abdicated. You got Einstein there with an eternal, a symbol of eternity in place of an eye. You got there's a little there Raoul Haussmann. You got Karl Marx. The word Dada gets repeated a lot. That happened a lot with early Dada work. But you see, this is how she started to add things together, and this is how Photomontage was born. It looks very crude and weird now, with the kind of work we have now put together now. But you still see some work like this. So, and as you can see, she was incredibly prolific during the time, because this is all 1920s, which is the Weimar period, obviously. There's a lot of layers in 1931. Here we go, you start to see more of the African work here, African influences. So this is a good book to read. I read it cover to cover, but it was a long time ago. This was like the late 90s that I last read this. Here we go, where she was looking more into African work, and it was also Far Eastern. And dancers. So she really pushed the boat out with style, different styles. So while Hartfield was doing a lot of political work, and other people were going, and here's one of actually John Hartfield's in the book. While Hartfield was doing a lot more political work, overtly political work, she was experimenting a lot more about femininity and culture, different cultures. So yeah, so she uses medicine man head on here. So some of it is more of an avant-garde as opposed to a satirical view of things. And obviously she is the lady herself. And obviously her work appeals to as a big feminist slant to it. Here is this piece, but in colour, which looks a lot better. I think the silhouette might be her. I'm not sure. It's her and Haussmann at the first International Dada Fair. So you got cut with a cake knife, kitchen knife there. Sorry, I've had it called cut with a cake knife so many times that it keeps falling into my head. So, and like some of the other artists, she was actually a very because some people say, well, collage is for kids, blah 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 blah. But she was a very talented artist as it was, as a draftsman. It's just they found that they both they all found upon this is the fact that they wanted to do something new, and everything before in art had they felt had already been done, and so they wanted to kind of take reality apart and put it back together and create a new anti-art. You've heard the term anti-art so often, but then yeah, as is common with these things, is they end up becoming the art. So it almost like you do become, whether you like it or not, or inadvertently, the thing you are trying to defeat, and it almost seems, but it is it still does have this very tremendous underground and satirical and anti-authoritarian bent to it. That's never going to go away, because authoritarians are and always do absolutely hate stuff like this. You'll find one thing that's common with authoritarian people is that they will want hyperrealism in their artwork. They do not want any kind of avant-garde or dada or stuff out of left field, which is what this is 100%. So as you can see, she had a very, this is 1939 to 1945, 1936 to 1945. There probably wasn't much made during that time, and what she did, she would have made in secret. So she has a diary entry about her and the arrival of Russian troops and the ceasefire. Here's some of her later collages, and this was 1945 to 1978. So, and the latest date when this book is 1950. I don't know what she did in the next 28 years. And so when was this interview? This interview was in 1980. Except for an interview between more dialogue. The book came out in 1982. When the interview was done, I do not know. So I haven't actually read this book cover to cover, so I haven't read this interview. So they're obviously talking a lot about Dadaists, because that's mostly what this is going to be the thing she's obviously more famously known for. Oh, here we go. This one, 1952. You can see her style has differed slightly. Still, it has a kind of a it has some of the same elements of broken faces and broken up bodies. This is a lot more what the kind of some things that some people would decry about collage. Though they would say, well, any kid can do this, but it's was still very unique for the time, and still it's still amazing to look at. This is where she's here, 1961, and it's just her stretching her wings about this. 1966. You see also where it's going, almost like where it's influenced, say, like psychedelia with its sense of colours. Now here we go. I'm talking about colours, but this isn't something that's not it's not in painting what you see. This is deliberately going, I'm going to do this. And here, this is very pre-psychedelia. This one's from 1967, and you can see where it is almost like an altered reality type artwork. So she will have influenced both psychedelia and punk, which is absolutely amazing. Because this does have this kind of, I've taken some ton of acid look to it, and this will have influenced the cover artwork you'd see with people like there's some Mothers of Invention albums had cover artwork that was a bit like this, and there's the cover artwork for Sergeant Pepper and Disraeli Gears. Here we go. She did a life portrait of herself. This was in 1972 to 73. So I'm going to actually read this properly at one point. I bought this mostly for the pictures, so I could to do this. But this was the legend that was Hannah Hoch. It's absolutely no, and it's no. I'm not exaggerating at all. It's like art would not be the same without her. And she had one of those minds that would always be working on what she was going on, something new, and trying to push the boat out and the envelope. And the art world is 100% better without with her doing that. I would not be doing what I am if it was not for her. And none of us who are collage artists would. With the exception of the fact that John Hartfield was doing this as well. But it was this. I think the fact that they were both doing this helped each other and helped us. The fact that you had more than one person doing this, and you had the very different styles, because her style is it's the same medium but different style. This is what I say about some people. So, well, this is like someone sees something like a TV on TV like this. Someone saw an Incubus video where they used animated photomontage. Someone said, "Well, that's like your artwork." So, yeah, same medium, different style. So her work and John Hartfield's work, for instance, look absolutely nothing alike. But they both pioneered this, and I know people were doing collages before then. It's dating back to long before that. I've got a book that I'm going through right now that talks about the history of it, and once I've actually got around to reading that, then I will I'll have a talk about that. But the for us to actually have this name to it, photomontage, and for it to be an actual deliberate, constant artistic discipline, it's down to her and John Hartfield, really. So I don't know who came up with the term photomontage. The term monteur, the photo part obviously came from photographs from magazines, but the monteur part of it came from the word monteur, to make, and they contracted the word. And there's the fact that I think Hartfield at the time liked to wear overalls a lot, it's kind of a proletarian uniform. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you've got anything interesting out of my incessant rambling, definitely look for both these books, because they are very good books, or any book on her work. And like, share, and subscribe. My description has my link tree in it, which has my merch links and my socials. And I shall speak to you soon. Thank you.